The silver lights of the spaceship Ilarion glowed against the dark sea of stars. Inside the grand hall, every sound seemed to hold its breath. Human Captain Evan Reed stood before the alien Princess Lyrana of Vareth, a woman unlike any he had ever met. Her long silver hair floated like mist in the air, and her glowing violet eyes watched him with calm power. He had rescued her months ago from the ruins of a fallen moon. He had fought pirates, crossed burning skies, and even risked his own life for her. And now, after everything, he finally found the courage to speak the words burning in his chest. "Lyrana, will you marry me?" The hall went silent. Even the hum of the ship seemed to stop. For a moment, she didn't move. Then slowly, the princess lowered her head. Her voice, soft and strange like wind in water, broke the silence. "Human, you can't just marry me." Evan blinked, unsure if he heard her right. "What do you mean?" he asked, taking a step closer. She lifted her eyes, and this time they shimmered with sadness and fear. "Because my sisters demand you take them too." The words hit him like a blast wave. The crew standing at the edges of the hall, humans and aliens alike, looked at each other in disbelief. Someone laughed nervously. Someone whispered, "Did she just say sisters?" But Lyrana was serious. Her hands trembled slightly as she continued. "It is our law, Captain Reed. The blood of Vareth runs through 4 daughters. We are one bond, one fate. None of us can marry unless all are chosen together." Evan's heart pounded. That's insane," he said. "You mean to tell me I have to—" Before he could finish, the heavy doors behind Lyrana opened with a metallic echo. 3 alien women entered, each as breathtaking and dangerous as the other. One wore armor of black crystal, her expression cold as a blade. Another wore flowing robes glowing with golden threads, her eyes sharp and clever. The last one, the youngest, hid behind her sisters, her face soft with curiosity and shy wonder. Lyrana turned to them, her face pale. "Sisters," she whispered. "He deserves to know." The one in black armor, Kalyra, the eldest, stepped forward. Her voice was hard as iron. "So this is the human who dares to ask for our sister's hand." Evan stayed calm, though every instinct told him to prepare for a fight. "I didn't dare," he said evenly. "I asked." Kalyra's lips curled slightly, a hint of a smirk. Brave words. For someone standing in the heart of alien space. Before he could reply, the lights flickered. A low alarm began to pulse through the ship. The communications officer's voice came through the speakers, sharp and urgent. "Captain Reed, unknown ships detected. Massive energy readings locking onto our position." The sisters exchanged quick glances. Lyrana's voice broke through the rising panic. "They found us." "Who?" Evan asked. "My father's royal fleet," she said softly. "They've come to claim me. And to judge you." Evan's mind raced. "Judge me? For what?" "For daring to touch the royal blood of Vareth." Through the glass window, the stars outside shifted as the giant fleet came into view. Dozens of dark ships forming a ring around the Ilarion. Their weapons glowed red like dying suns. The human crew rushed to battle stations. "Captain, orders?" But Evan didn't speak right away. He looked at Lyrana, who stood trembling but proud. Her sisters behind her like living shadows. He remembered the moment he found her, half buried in the ruins of her world, clutching a broken pendant and whispering in her strange alien tongue. She had been alone then, just like him. He took a breath and said quietly, "I'm not giving you up." Lyrana's eyes widened. "You don't understand. They'll destroy your ship, your people, everything you love." Evan gave a small, tired smile. "Then they'll learn what humans do when cornered." Outside, the first warning shots fired. Red light flashed across the control panels. The crew scrambled to shield positions. The sisters stood tense, torn between their duty and their fear. Lyrana's youngest sister whispered, "He's really going to fight them." For her. The one in gold muttered, "Foolish human bravery." But her tone carried something almost like respect. As explosions lit the stars, Lyrana turned to him once more. "If you survive this, Evan, you'll change the destiny of 2 worlds." The ship shook violently. Sparks flew. "Brace for impact," shouted the helmsman. Evan grabbed the rail, his eyes locked on the endless night outside the viewport. He had no idea how to fight an entire royal fleet, but in his heart, one truth burned brighter than fear. He would rather die standing beside her than live without her. And somewhere deep in the dark between stars, something ancient stirred. watching the fragile bond between a human and four alien sisters that could rewrite the story of the galaxy itself. The proposal that began as love had now become the spark of war. The Ilarian drifted in the shadow of the royal fleet like a wounded beast among predators. The stars outside burned cold and distant, their light trembling across the ship's metal hull. Inside, the air was thick with tension. Captain Evan Reed stood in the command room watching the alien warships circle his vessel. The crew whispered nervously. They all knew what that meant. One wrong move and they'd all be dust among the stars. Behind him, Lyrana entered quietly. She looked exhausted. Her silver hair tangled, her royal robes dimmed from battle smoke. Her voice was soft but heavy with centuries of tradition. Evan, they will not attack yet. The Emperor's judgment comes first, and that means, you must face my sisters. Evan turned. Face them? I thought I already did. Lyrana shook her head. Not as a soldier, but as a man they must accept. The gathering of four later in the ship's council chamber, the four alien sisters stood in a perfect circle around a glowing table. Their presence filled the air with strange energy, a hum that made the lights flicker and the walls vibrate softly. Each sister carried an aura as different as their hearts. Lyra. The eldest was steel and fire, dressed in dark armor, her eyes sharp with command. Seren, the second, wore golden robes that shimmered with symbols of wisdom. Her mind was sharper than any blade. Elira, the third, delicate and calm, had eyes that saw emotions before words. And Lyrana, the youngest, the one who had fallen in love with a human, stood silently between duty and heart. Lyra's voice broke the silence. Our law binds us as one. If one marries, all must. Our fates are joined, our lives shared. Yet this human dares to choose only one of us. Evan met her gaze without fear. I didn't choose her because of her title. I chose her because she's kind. Because she risked her life for mine when no one else did. Seren smiled faintly, though her tone was cold. Emotions. Always emotions with humans. You build empires from feelings and then they collapse under the same weight. Evan replied simply, maybe, but it's those feelings that keep us human, that make us fight for what matters. The sisters looked at him, each reading something different in his words. Lyra saw defiance, Seren saw foolishness, Elira saw truth, and Lyrana saw love. The pact's history, Seren walked slowly around the table, her golden dress flowing like liquid sunlight. Do you even know what you ask for, human? The Pact of Four is not just law, it's ancient power. When our ancestors created it, it bound our souls together. If one sister suffers, all feel it. If one dies, all fade. Evan's breath caught. You mean, you share your lives? Lyrana nodded. Yes. It is both our blessing and our curse. Lyra stepped closer, her voice low and dangerous. So tell me, human, if you marry one of us, will you be strong enough to protect all of us? Evan didn't answer immediately. He looked at each of them. 4 lives, 4 souls linked by something far beyond human understanding. He didn't know if he could protect them, but he knew he would die trying. I'll do what I can, he said quietly. Even if it kills me. The room went silent. Even the hum of the engine seemed to fade. Elira tilted her head, her voice soft as a sigh. He means it. His heart speaks truth, Seren frowned. You always feel too much, Elira, but Elira smiled. Maybe that's why I can still feel hope. The warning suddenly, the lights dimmed red. A voice came over the ship's speaker. Captain, enemy ship approaching fast. It's broadcasting a royal seal. Lyrana's face turned pale. It's my father's flagship. Lyra drew in a sharp breath. Then time is over. The Emperor demands his answer. Evan looked at her. His answer? Yes, Lyra said. If you agree to the Pact of Four, you live. If you refuse, he destroys your ship and your world will be marked as unworthy. The room spun in Evan's mind. It wasn't just about love anymore. It was about Earth's survival. He clenched his fists. And what happens if I agree? Seren replied, her voice smooth like silk hiding steel. Then you become part of us. Bound to our minds, you will never return to being only human again. Evan looked at Lyrana, searching her eyes for an answer. She whispered, Evan, I never wanted this for you. I wanted freedom, not another chain. He smiled sadly. Freedom's not something given, Lyrana. It's something we fight for. Together. The sisters' decision. The sisters stood in a circle once more, their hands glowing faintly as they joined palms. Blue light filled the room, rising like mist. Their voices blended in ancient alien chant, words older than the stars themselves. The air trembled. The light touched Evan's chest like a heartbeat. Kalyra spoke. By our vow, the Pact of Four is considered. The human may live among us, or die with defiance. Serene added, he will be tested. His heart, his strength, his mind, his spirit. Elira whispered, and his love. The energy faded and all went quiet. Lyrana turned to him, eyes filled with tears that shimmered like starlight. They've accepted the pact, Evan, but now, you must survive it. The ship's sirens wailed again as the Emperor's fleet drew closer. The time for words was over. Evan looked out the viewport at the sea of enemy ships and whispered almost to himself, if this is what it takes to prove humanity's worth, then let's begin. And somewhere beyond the stars, the fate of both worlds began to shift, one heartbeat at a time. The Emperor's fleet loomed over the Ilarian like a mountain of iron and flame. Red light from the alien warships painted the human vessel in warning color, a signal of judgment. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath as Captain Evan Reed faced the impossible. He stood at the main window, his reflection ghostly in the glass. The weight of two worlds pressed against his chest. Behind him, the four alien sisters stood together, their faces lit by the shifting lights of the console. The Emperor's voice came through the intercom, deep, commanding, and cold. Human Captain, you have taken what is mine. Return my daughter and surrender yourself for judgment. The sound vibrated through the ship like thunder. Evan pressed the communicator. With all respect, Your Majesty, I didn't take her. She chose to stay. A long pause. Then the Emperor's tone turned sharper. You misunderstand your position, creature of Earth. You do not get to choose when speaking to gods. The screen flickered, revealing the Emperor's face, a figure of immense power with golden eyes that glowed like suns. His armor looked carved from meteors. The hall around him shimmered with energy. By our ancient law, the Emperor continued, no one of my blood may bind with a being of a lesser race. Yet you have polluted my line with affection. You have broken the balance. Evan stood firm. Then maybe your balance was never fair. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. Defiance. From a mortal. Lyrana stepped forward, her voice trembling. Father, please, he is not like the others. He saved my life when your own guards left me to die. Silence, the Emperor snapped. His gaze shifted toward Evan. If this human is as noble as you claim, let him prove it. Let him stand the trial of the suns. The sisters gasped. Kalyra whispered, no one survives that. Not even our own kind, Seren frowned. It's suicide. But Evan only asked one question. What happens if I pass? The Emperor leaned closer, his voice low like a storm. Then you live. And your planet may breathe another century. The screen went dark. The trial announced, the chamber filled with silence again. Every crew member stared at Evan, waiting for him to speak. Captain, his first officer said quietly, that trial, it's a death trap. You can't do it. Evan's jaw tightened. If I don't, he destroys Earth. Lyrana gripped his arm. You can't fight gods, Evan. You're human. You bleed. You break. He looked into her eyes. Then let him see us bleed. Let him see we still stand. For a long moment, none of them spoke. Then Kalyra stepped forward, her usual pride softened by something unexpected. Respect. If you truly wish to face the trial, I will train you. Not to win, but to survive long enough to make them remember your name. Evan nodded. Then let's begin. The humans training for 3 days, the Ilarian hovered near a barren moon while Kalyra put him through her brutal drills. She pushed him beyond exhaustion. He fought in zero gravity, endured burning heat simulations, and practiced breathing under pressure so intense it felt like drowning. The other sisters watched quietly. Serene measured his mind with endless questions, testing his logic, his patience, his emotions. Elira sat silently by, sensing every flicker of doubt that passed through his heart. At night, when the drills ended, Lyrana came to him in the dark observation deck. You could still run, she whispered. Escape into deep space. No one would blame you. Evan looked at the stars. Running doesn't save anyone. It just changes who dies. She sighed and placed her hand over his. You humans, you love like it's a weapon. He smiled faintly. That's because sometimes it's the only one we have. The trial begins. When the time came, a massive gate of light opened before the Ilarian. Inside, 4 suns blazed, each representing one of the sisters, each a trial of body, mind, heart, and soul. The Emperor's voice echoed through the chamber. Let the trial of the 4 suns begin. Evan stepped forward, armored in silver exogear borrowed from alien tech. His pulse beat steady. Behind him, the sisters stood in silence, bound to his fate, their lives connected to every breath he took. The first sun flared, a desert of molten fire. Winds of plasma roared. He stumbled but didn't fall. Every step burned, but he kept walking. He remembered Earth's deserts, soldiers dying in heat, people rebuilding cities from ash. The second sun, a storm of illusions. Voices of his dead crew called his name, begging him to give up. He bit his lip until he tasted blood and whispered, "Not today." The third sun, a maze of memories. He saw himself as a child, weak and powerless, watching his family die in a spaceport attack. For a moment, he wanted to stay there to fix it. But then he heard Lirana's voice. You can't change the past, only protect what's left. He broke free. Finally, the fourth sun, darkness. No sound, no gravity, only emptiness and pain. His oxygen dropped, his vision blurred. Yet through it all, one thought burned inside him. Humanity never stops fighting. When the light returned, Evan was on his knees, gasping for air. The Emperor's fleet watched in stunned silence. The trial's energy faded. Against all logic, against all prophecy, he had survived. The defiance that echoed. The Emperor's image appeared again, expression unreadable. You should be dead. Evan wiped the blood from his mouth. Guess your gods forgot to check what humans are made of. The Emperor's face darkened, but behind him whispers spread among the royal guards, the priests, the watching nobles. They had seen something their laws never allowed, a mortal defeating divine trial. Lirana ran to him, tears shining in her violet eyes. You did it. You actually did it. He smiled weakly. Told you, humans don't quit. Kalira knelt beside him, eyes wide. Perhaps your kind is not as small as we thought. But far away, deep within the Emperor's ship, unseen eyes watched. There were those who hated what had happened, who whispered that if humans could survive the trial of suns, then they could not be allowed to live. And thus, even as victory shone, a darker plan began to form in the shadows of the stars. The victory over the trial of suns had changed everything. For the first time in their long history, the proud empire of Vareth had bowed its head to a human's courage. Across the stars, beings whispered of the man who walked through 4 suns and lived. But inside the Ilarian, peace was fragile. Evan's body healed, but his mind burned with questions. Why did the Emperor's silence feel heavier than war? And why did the sisters avoid his eyes as if carrying some secret shame? The answer came one quiet night when Kalira, the eldest sister, stepped into his quarters. Her armor was gone, replaced by a dark cloak. For the first time she looked human, tired, uncertain, almost soft. The trial isn't over, she said quietly. You passed the sun, but not the hearts, Evan frowned. Hearts? Kalira nodded slowly. Our people believe that true strength is not proven by fire or pain, but by emotion. You faced the Empire's power. Now you must face ours. He didn't understand. But the look in her eyes told him this next test would break him in ways the suns couldn't. The chamber of memory. The sisters led him to a circular chamber deep within the ship. Strange blue crystals lined the walls, pulsing softly like beating hearts. At the center stood a platform of light. Seren, the second sister, explained, These crystals hold our memories. Each one a lifetime, each one a truth. To pass the trial of hearts, you must enter them. Live our pain, our joy, our shame. Evan looked at the glowing stones. You mean, live your lives? Seren's golden eyes flickered. Yes, feel what we have felt. See what we have seen. Only then can you understand what it means to love one of us. Before he could answer, the light beneath his feet rose, wrapping him in blinding brilliance. The world vanished. Kalira's heart. When the light faded, Evan found himself standing on a battlefield under 2 crimson moons. Thousands of alien soldiers clashed, their screams echoing across the dunes. Kalira stood among them, her armor stained, her sword broken. She was younger here and fierce and proud. He felt her emotions flooding into him, the pride of command, the pain of loss, the burden of always being strong. She turned, eyes blazing. Do you see it now, human? To lead means to watch your people die, and still stand tall. He could feel her grief deep as the sea. When her soldiers fell one by one, he felt every wound as if it were his own. Tears burned his eyes, and when she knelt beside her fallen lieutenant, whispering, "You died for me, but I never told you thank you." Evan understood her pain. The light swallowed him again. Serene's heart, he awoke in a golden hall filled with echoes of laughter and politics. Serene sat on a throne, surrounded by advisors. She smiled and spoke gracefully, yet her thoughts screamed in silence. Every decision she made cost lives. Every lie she told saved more. Her mind was a storm of logic and regret. Evan could feel her loneliness. She was brilliant, powerful, admired, and utterly alone. When she saw him, her face softened for the first time. Do you understand now, Captain Reed? Intelligence is a crown of thorns. To know too much is to lose your peace forever. He wanted to speak, but the vision faded, Elira's heart. Now he stood in a garden under silver rain. The air was calm, the colors soft. Elira, the gentle one, sat on a stone bench holding a broken music crystal. She smiled sadly. This was my song. I wrote it for someone who loved me, until the war took him. The melody echoed faintly, sweet and aching. Through her eyes he felt the warmth of first love, then the cold sting of loss. He felt her loneliness, the endless years she spent singing to empty air, waiting for a voice that never answered. She looked up at him. Love is not only joy, human. It's also the courage to live after it ends. Her tears glowed like stars, and he whispered, then maybe that's what makes it real. Lyrana's heart. The final vision came without light or sound, just darkness and the faint rhythm of a heartbeat. Then came her voice, Lyrana's voice, soft, trembling. Do you remember the day you found me? He saw it again, her body half buried under snow and smoke, her fingers gripping his hand like it was the last thing in the world that mattered. When you carried me, she whispered, I thought you were another soldier, but you looked at me like I was alive, like I was more than a name in the ashes. The darkness turned to starlight. She stood before him now, tears shining on her cheeks. That's why I love you, Evan. Not because you are human, but because you made me remember how to feel. He reached for her, but the world shattered around them. The trial was ending. The aftermath even fell to his knees in the crystal chamber, gasping for breath. The sisters stood before him, their faces unreadable. Serene stepped forward. You felt us. Every memory. Every scar. Kalira nodded slowly. No other being has ever endured that pain and stayed sane. Elira whispered, He carries pieces of us now. His heart is no longer human alone. Lyrana's voice trembled. Then he passed. He has proven his heart. The crystals pulsed once more, brighter this time, as if recognizing his soul. But in the shadows above them, hidden cameras blinked. Somewhere deep in the Emperor's flagship, unseen watchers recorded everything, and among them a cold voice whispered, If a human can share their hearts, they can rule them. He must not live. The trial had ended, but the true war was only beginning. The stars outside the Alarian shone like silent witnesses. For the first time in weeks, the ship drifted peacefully through space. No alarms, no battles, no trials. The crew rested. The sisters smiled. The galaxy seemed to hold its breath in relief. But Captain Evan Reed couldn't sleep. He stood alone at the observation deck, staring at the endless black. His reflection in the glass looked tired, more soldier than savior. The trial of hearts had left its mark. He still felt the sisters, emotions deep inside him, Kalira's strength, Serene's sharp mind, Elira's soft sorrow, Lyrana's love. Their memories whispered through his dreams, and yet in that silence something else stirred, a sense of danger he couldn't name. He didn't know that somewhere else aboard the Ilarion, betrayal had already begun. The hidden transmission deep. In the communications chamber, Seren, the golden-eyed sister of reason, stood before a glowing console. The others were asleep, trusting her to maintain contact with the royal fleet for peace talks. But her trembling hands told another story. The console flickered. A holographic image of the Emperor appeared, her father, his presence cold and commanding. "Report, daughter." Seren lowered her head. "The human has passed the trials. He carries our bond within him now. Even the crystals recognize his spirit." The Emperor's tone hardened. "That cannot be allowed. If a human shares your bond, he becomes part of our lineage. That is a threat to the throne." Serene's voice broke. "But father, he saved us. He united us when we were divided." "He corrupted you," the Emperor thundered. "Do you think love is greater than law? If he lives, your sisters will abandon their duty. I command you. Send me his genetic imprint. We will end this quietly." Serene froze. "You mean to kill him?" "Not kill," the Emperor said darkly. "Reclaim what is ours. His DNA will serve the next generation of soldiers, stronger, resistant to disease, capable of surviving the suns themselves. Humanity will die, but its strength will live through us." The connection ended, leaving Seren staring at the empty console. Her reflection wavered in the screen, half royal, half traitor. "I only wanted peace," she whispered. But she sent the code anyway. The whisper in the hall later as the ship slept, Kalira walked through the dark corridor. Her instincts as a warrior kept her alert. She noticed a faint hum, the signature tone of a secret transmission. Following it, she reached the communication bay and froze. The console still glowed faintly with golden traces of Seren's energy. Her jaw tightened. "No." She touched the panel and replayed the final seconds of the message, just enough to hear the Emperor's voice. "Send me his genetic imprint." Kalira's blood ran cold. "Seren, what have you done?" The confrontation. The next morning, the sisters gathered in the main hall. Evan entered, unaware of the storm brewing. He smiled tiredly. "We made it through hell. I think we deserve a sunrise." But no one smiled back. Kalira slammed her hand on the table. "Tell him, Seren. Tell him what you did." Seren looked down, guilt burning in her golden eyes. "I didn't mean to." Evan's voice hardened. "What did you do?" "I sent your data," she whispered. "Your blood sample from the trial. Father demanded it. He said it was for peace negotiations, but—" Her voice cracked. "But he's using it to make weapons. Human-alien hybrids, soldiers that will obey the throne." Evan froze. His mind went blank. Then slowly anger filled the silence. "You betrayed me," he said quietly. "After everything we fought for." Serene's tears fell. "I thought I could protect you. I thought—" Kalira cut her off. "You thought wrong." The sisters argued, their voices rising. Kalira cried silently in the corner. Lyrana stepped forward, her eyes full of hurt. "Seren, you were supposed to be our wisdom, and yet you destroyed what little trust we had." "I tried to save us," Seren shouted back. "You don't understand what Father is capable of." Evan turned away, fists clenched. "Then it's too late. He already knows." The ship's alarm sounded. Red lights flashed. The sensor officer's voice rang through the speakers. "Captain, incoming ships, Royal Fleet class. They've locked weapons." The attack through. The windows, dozens of golden warships descended from warp. The Emperor's armada. Energy beams crackled across space. The Ilarion shook under the first impact. "Shields up," Evan shouted. "All stations, battle alert." Kalira rushed to her post, barking commands. Seren stood frozen, tears streaming as she watched her father's fleet attack the very ship she had tried to save. Explosions lit the void. Panels sparked. Lyrana grabbed Evan's arm. "We can't fight them all." He turned to her, eyes burning. "We don't have to win. We just have to survive long enough to expose the truth." He opened the intercom. To the Emperor of Vareth, this is Captain Evan Reed. You call us lesser beings, yet you use our blood to build your future. You call us weak, yet you fear our hearts. You want war? Then you'll see what humanity truly is. His words echoed across the stars, broadcast on every open frequency. Billions would hear it. The lie was dying. The breaking point as the ship took another hit. Kylira shielded Evan with her arm. A blast wave threw them to the floor. Smoke filled the hall. Serene fell to her knees, sobbing. I never wanted this. Father, stop. Her voice reached the fleet's frequency. For a brief moment, the Emperor's face appeared again, furious, almost unrecognizable. You have chosen death, my daughters. Lyrana's voice trembled, but didn't break. No, Father. We have chosen freedom. Evan looked at the sisters, 4 beings once bound by duty, now united by choice. And in that moment he knew the war had truly begun. The Emperor's fleet fired again, and the Ilarion vanished into hyperspace, running not from defeat, but toward destiny. The betrayal was complete. But from its ashes, a new rebellion was born. The Ilarion tore through hyperspace like a wounded bird fleeing the fire. Sparks still fell from its ceiling. Half the ship's systems were offline. Smoke hung in the air, and every heartbeat sounded like a drum of war. Captain Evan Reed stood at the front window, his reflection faint in the broken glass. Beyond, the stars blurred into rivers of light. He didn't feel like a hero, only a man carrying too many lives on his shoulders. Behind him, the 4 sisters worked silently. Kylira directed the damaged crew. Seren repaired the navigation codes, her hands trembling from guilt. Illyra moved among the wounded, whispering comfort. Lyrana stood beside Evan, her violet eyes steady but full of sadness. When the engines finally steadied, Kylira said quietly, They'll follow us. The Emperor doesn't forgive rebellion. Evan didn't turn. Then we don't run. We end this. Seren looked up sharply. End this? With what? Half our weapons are gone. Our shields are dying. Evan's voice was calm, but his eyes were cold steel. Not with weapons, with truth. The broadcast, they entered a quiet orbit above an uncharted moon. From here, they could broadcast across half the Empire. Evan walked to the center console, hands resting on the glowing control pad. We send a message, he said. Not to the Emperor, to his people. Lyrana frowned. Evan, if you do that, I have to, he said softly. They've only heard the Empire's lies about humans. Let them see what we really are. Kylira crossed her arms. They won't believe you, Evan looked at her. Then I'll make them feel it. He opened the ship's external frequency. The blue light on the console flickered, connecting to every channel, every city, every military outpost within range. The hologram activated. Evan's face projected across the Empire, scarred but unbroken. The alien citizens of 1,000 worlds looked up to see a human speaking to them. People of Vareth, Evan began, his voice steady. Your Emperor says humans are dangerous, that we're invaders. But all I've done is save lives, and including his own daughters. He paused, the silence echoing. You call us lesser, yet you steal our blood. You call us weak, yet you fear our love. I didn't come to rule you. I came to remind you that courage doesn't belong to a race. It belongs to anyone who dares to care. The sisters watched in stunned silence. His words were simple, but they carried the weight of fire. I've walked through your sons, he said, voice rising. I've seen your pain, your pride, your beauty. And I've learned one truth. We are more alike than you want to admit. Across the Empire, citizens paused. Soldiers lowered their weapons. Children whispered his name. But on the royal flagship, the Emperor's fury burned like a dying star. Find him, he roared. Bring me the human alive. The Emperor's arrival moments later, the Ilarion's radar flashed red. The Emperor's dreadnought had arrived. A ship larger than any city on Earth. Its shadow swallowed the stars. Brace for contact, Kylira shouted. A beam of light struck the Ilarion. The air crackled, and in an instant the Emperor himself appeared on their bridge, towering, armored, glowing with power. The sisters bowed instinctively. Evan didn't move. The Emperor's golden eyes blazed. You dare speak to my people? You poison their minds with your words? Evan met his gaze. They were already poisoned. I just showed them the antidote. The Emperor's voice shook the air. You are nothing, human. Your courage is borrowed. Your love is weakness. You think saving my daughters gives you the right to challenge gods? Evan took a slow breath. No, but it gives me the right to choose what kind of man I want to be. The human's choice. The Emperor lifted his hand, energy gathering in his palm, enough to tear Evan apart. But before he could strike, Lyrana stepped between them. Father, stop. He passed every trial, every test. He fought for us when you abandoned your own blood. The Emperor's voice thundered. You are blinded by emotion. Kalira joined her. Maybe emotion is what you fear most, because it's the one power you can't control. The Emperor's hand trembled, energy pulsing like a heartbeat. You will destroy our empire for this human. Evan stepped forward, unarmed, eyes burning with quiet defiance. Then let me save it, he said. You want power? Take me. Bind me to your empire. I'll marry all 4 sisters, unite their houses, end your wars. But in return, you end your hate, the sisters gasped. Even the Emperor froze, stunned. Lyrana whispered, Evan, no, this isn't your burden. He turned to her with a soft smile. It's not a burden. It's a bridge. The Emperor studied him, this fragile, mortal being standing before gods. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then slowly he lowered his hand. You would sacrifice your freedom for peace? Evan nodded. If peace means my people live, if it means your daughters can love without fear. The Emperor looked at his daughters, saw the truth in their eyes. Love, loyalty, and pain. He sighed, the sound heavy as time itself. Very well, he said at last. You will marry them. But remember, human, when you unite what was never meant to be joined, something will break. He vanished in a flash of golden light. The ship fell silent. The weight of the decision. Evan leaned against the console, exhausted. The sisters surrounded him. Kalira's voice was quiet. You just changed the future of 2 worlds, Saren whispered, or doomed them both. Elira touched his arm gently. Why did you do it, Evan? He looked at Lyrana, his voice barely a whisper. Because someone had to choose love, even when it hurts. Outside, the stars turned red as the Empire's twin suns rose together, a sight that hadn't happened in centuries. Some said it was an omen, others said it was hope. But deep in the Emperor's flagship, unseen generals gathered in the dark, whispering of rebellion. And far from the stars, the human race watched, waiting to see if one man's love could hold the galaxy together. The human had made his choice, but the universe was not done testing him. The twin suns of Vareth rose for the first time in 1,000 years, bathing the Empire's capital in golden light. Across cities and moons, billions gathered before their holoscreens to witness what had been thought impossible, the marriage of a human to the royal daughters of Vareth. The air itself seemed to hum with awe and fear. For some, this union was a symbol of peace. For others, it was heresy, a challenge to everything their kind believed about blood, power, and purity. Inside the Grand Crystal Palace, under a ceiling of starlight, Captain Evan Reed stood waiting. His ceremonial armor was silver, reflecting both human craftsmanship and alien artistry, a blend of 2 worlds that had once sworn never to meet. Behind him stood the 4 sisters, Kalira, Saren, Illyra, and Lyrana, each dressed in robes that represented their houses, black, gold, blue, and white. Together they looked like living constellations. Lyrana approached him quietly, her voice trembling but warm. It's really happening, she whispered. Evan smiled faintly. Yeah, guess the universe has a strange sense of humor. The ceremony as the Emperor entered, the hall fell silent. His golden armor gleamed like a miniature sun, his eyes unreadable. He moved to the center platform where the ancient bond crystal floated, a relic said to bind souls across time. By the decree of the Emperor of Vareth, he began, his voice echoing, and by the will of the stars, we join the blood of the 4 houses with that of Earth. Let the past be buried, and the future be shared. He looked at Evan, not with hatred now, but something colder, calculation. The sisters joined hands around the bond crystal. Evan stepped into the circle. As their palms touched the glowing sphere, light burst outward, blue, gold, white, and red merging into a radiant blaze. Gasps filled the hall. The bond crystal shimmered brighter than ever recorded. The watchers could barely look. Evan felt the energy surge through him, connecting his mind to theirs. 4 hearts, 4 souls, 4 lives intertwined with his own. He could feel Kalira's fire, Seren's intelligence, Illyra's empathy, and Lyrana's love. The connection burned like sunlight in his veins. "It is done," the Emperor said solemnly. 2 species, 1 destiny. The crowd erupted, and some in cheers, others in shouts of rage. But before the echoes faded, a low rumble shook the palace. The betrayal. Suddenly, alarms screamed. The floor trembled as explosions shattered the outer domes. Guards ran for cover. Through the broken windows, streaks of fire rained down from the sky. "Attack!" Kalira shouted, pulling Evan behind a fallen pillar. Lyrana's voice broke with panic. "It's not my father, it's them. The Purity faction!" From the sky descended black warships bearing a single symbol, the mark of the old faith. A movement of extremists who believed no alien blood should ever mix with another. Seren's eyes widened. "They're targeting the bond crystal." Before anyone could move, a massive blast struck the heart of the hall. The crystal cracked. The light within it flared violently, connecting to all 5 of them. Evan screamed as energy tore through his body. His mind flooded with visions. Cities burning, oceans freezing, stars collapsing. He could feel every pain in the galaxy, every scream, every dying hope. The connection between him and the sisters was now unstable, wild, alive, uncontrollable. The fight for the crystal guards and rebels clashed as the palace fell into chaos. Kalira drew her blade, striking down attackers with the fury of a storm. Illyra used her healing powers to protect the wounded. Serene hacked into the defense system, turning the palace cannons against the enemy fleet. Evan stumbled toward the cracked crystal. It pulsed violently, threatening to explode and destroy half the planet. "Evan, stop!" Lyrana cried, running to him. "If you touch it again, it will kill you." He looked back at her, his face pale but determined. "Then at least it'll mean something." He pressed his hands against the crystal. Light engulfed him. Through the bond, the sisters felt his pain, his heart burning, his mind collapsing. But they also felt his will, unyielding, fierce, human. He whispered through the link, "If love made this happen, then love can fix it." The sacrifice outside, the dark ships began to fall one by one. The energy from the crystal spread like a wave, disabling every weapon across the system. The entire empire watched as the storm of light consumed the battlefield. Not death, but renewal. When the brilliance faded, Evan lay on the floor, barely breathing. The crystal had turned pure white, silent and whole again. Lyrana knelt beside him, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Evan, please stay with me. Don't go." He opened his eyes weakly. "Looks like I finally got your father's blessing." She laughed through her tears. "You're a fool." "Yeah," he whispered, smiling faintly. "A human one." He reached up and touched her face, the last warmth fading from his hand. The bond shimmered, connecting all 5 of them one last time. A shared heartbeat. A promise written across eternity. And then he was still. The dawn after days later, the Empire gathered under the rebuilt crystal dome. The Emperor stood before his people, his once proud voice softened by grief. "The human who defied gods gave us peace." He reminded us that greatness is not born in bloodlines, but in choice. Kalira led the Empire's new guard, devoted to protecting the peace he had bought. Seren became counselor to the new Galactic Council. Illyra turned her healing gift into a movement that spread across worlds. And Lyrana, she carried his name among the stars. She often returned to the place where the bond crystal stood, now glowing softly like a heart. She would whisper to the light, "You married not just 4 sisters, Evan. You married 4 worlds, and the galaxy still remembers." The camera would pull back, stars glimmering, twin suns rising, and the Illyrian drifting through the golden light. Final line. He was just a human, but he became the bridge that held the stars together.